Hello, beautiful friends. How's it going? It's been a while. I'm back to do a video of Turntable Currents, stuff I've been pulling out of my collection here in the Space Cave, stuff I've just wanted to listen to randomly. That's what I've been doing. What can I say, man? I said I'd be back, but I obviously don't know when or where. But I've been poking around a little bit in the YouTubes and looking at some record videos of old friends, and then some new people that I'm not real familiar with, but have obviously made an impression and their place here on this whole vinyl journey that we're all on. I kind of been working on the Space Cave this past year, more to my liking. Change the colors in the room, set it up more organized, going through the collection one album at a time, counting, organizing better. You know, I've still got to go through and chronologically put stuff in, but at least I got all the albums together. I've been real lazy about that, but some of them are, chronological as I got more into this. But it's been a labor of love, as all of us know with our record collections. When you have to move them, or you have to move them around and count them, a lot of sweat, man. In my case, tears, because I've got so much. But it's more to my liking, man. I've got a few more touches to do in here, so maybe when that happens, I'll give a little glimpse of the rest of the room. A lot of new additions to my space here, the Space Cave. Come a long way since the early days. I guess my first video was back on Record Store Day 2010, and those that have been around know me. But I've kind of I slowed down and kind of moved further. I know I've discussed all this before, but if you're new to the channel, I just come and talk about stuff and talk about my collection. And what I'm showing here is just a small stack of stuff I've been listening to the past week or so, and just rotating on the turntable, just expanding my mind, man. I listened to this stuff all my life, and I love revisiting, man. It's just it's a great trip of escapism. But like I said, I've been looking around, and I got inspired to come and do a video. And hopefully, I don't know. Knowing me, I don't know. I want to be consistent. I like consistency, but you never know. The wind may blow a different way tomorrow. But I do want to say, man, if you know me from the old days, stop and say hello. I like to hear. I like interaction. You say hello, or maybe we can get in conversation. I've been looking for some older people that I haven't seen, and I hope everybody's well that kind of are out there that I haven't seen. I've lost touch with. But anybody know what happened to Punk Texas? I miss him, man. I used to talk to him, and I ran into him one time at one of my spots way back when. And I was just having a nostalgic trip the other day, thinking about people, and I was feeling a little blue. And so I came back and started watching some videos, some that I haven't watched, or some that I've watched years ago. I just kind of was reminded, and it was such a beautiful time in the vinyl community. It was just a good place to discover, and everybody was kind of on the same wavelength for a little bit, and I really enjoyed it. I spent so much time making videos, how many a week, and doing contests, and sending each other records, turning people on to stuff. Oh man, it was just like a dream, man. And that's kind of what I, when I was feeling blue, I was like, man, I wanna kind of re-experience that, kind of flashback a little bit, and so it's led me here. So I guess it's been a good thing. I'm here, and I want to hear from some people, man. Some, new or old. I'd like to catch up with some older people that I used to converse and send stuff and do all that stuff. I love those days, man. It was so, I used to, when I sent out albums, I would draw all this artwork all over the box, and if you know, you know. But it was just fun, man. And it's the music, the whole vinyl resurgence has changed so much from those days. Even though stuff was getting pricier then, there were still, new discoveries. Stuff was cheaper, stuff was more affordable, and sometimes all you had to do was just wait for the mailman to come in, because you would get something in the mail from somebody on here that was wanted to turn you on. They were really inspired by something. So anyways, I was just, like I said, I was having a flashback, kind of going down that road, that path on the trip, and so here I am. It's led me here. So I just want to come and show some albums I've been listening to. No right reason, rhyme, or whatever you want to call it, but stuff I pulled out and was just kind of, I don't know, man. I'm just having a good time. First one, man, was Can, Dago Mago. This was the first album, and I've talked about it. I did a post about when Damo passed away, my discovery of this album on Instagram, on my Facebook. But for those that don't follow me there or don't know, I discovered this album. It had to be in the 90s, late 90s probably. I was living on my own, kind of away from home, which is a good thing. And I was kind of just doing things on my own, and discovering myself, and doing a lot of art, working jobs that didn't pay shit. I worked at a rug shop, did flipping rugs and riding Magic Carpet Ride. And then I had a psychedelic band that I formed. I played bass, I sang, and wrote the lyrics and the songs. And we were very influenced by The Doors, early Pink Floyd, of course the Beatles, a lot of bands like that. That sound. And the guitarist, he was really into the Moody Blues. He really, I remember. But anyways, it was a 4-piece, guitar, bass, drums, and keyboards, organ, synthesizer, very much Pink Floyd. And I worked at this record store part-time after my job, and that's where I discovered this album. And it just blew my mind. Just that album kind of spoke to me, because I understood it. I felt like that was me, just what I was going through and the times. And as many of us were drawn to the cover first. I always said that if an artist took the time to make an interesting cover, it was a whole package that, they spent the time that the music was going to be good. Sometimes more than not, in my opinion. So I remember this album, Tangerine Dream Zeit, and an album called Cosmic Corridors, which actually got a release a few years ago, actually, which was just mind-blowing to me, because it was such an obscure and unknown. What I knew of was German. It was all like German rock, krautrock, psychedelia. But anyways, this was the album that I took home, and I discovered all those in one night. I sat through a mind trip, man, and had a little old 1960s, probably earlier than that, but the way the colors and everything was 1960s. That's just how it came. And so turquoise doors, oven, everything matched. It was just an old little apartment, good little hippie hole. And so, anyways, I found myself alone, taking a trip, and man. So as I was reminiscing, with Damo's passing, I pulled this out first, and it was like, I'm going down that hole again. And so, a very meaningful album I love. Um, it's their third album, and I don't know. I just wanted to play it, and so I pulled it out kind of in tribute. But yeah, I know it's known. I know people know it, have experienced it, and I'm sure we all have our own perceptions and everything. I don't know. But anyways, on to the next one. I pulled this out the other day. I hadn't listened to this in a long time. But when I was on that trip, I was reminiscing about Ray Manzarek. I think this is his first album, the Golden Scarab, 1974. Like I said, I was reminiscing about him the other day because I'd met Ray Manzarek shortly, about a year before he passed away, and talked with him, and had a real mind moment, man. So I've actually seen him play twice. I have a good connection with the Doors, all the way up to and I should have brought it here, but I still have a rubbing of Morrison's headstone in Paris. But anyways, like I said, I've come close to with John. I've actually got a Doors album up here, autographed, when I had a long, lengthy conversation with John and then Robbie. But I got to see him also. The last time I saw him, he was playing with Robbie Krieger, and it was just awesome. But I pulled this out the other day, and this has Larry Carlton on bass, Tony Williams on drums, and so and Jerry Sheff on bass, and Larry Carlton on guitar, and produced by Bruce Botnick, and just a cool little album. A lot of people, or I used to see this at the Dollar Bin all the time, and luckily I didn't have to go there because I already had it. So yeah, Ray Manzarek, and then went from Manzarek to one of my favorite. This was going back to the days of Dago Mago for me. I listened to this and wrote and read a lot of poetry, but this was also a kind of an album that I carried in my bag. It was just. It was a great time. I remember thinking, this is the worst days of my life. I'm broke. I'm alone. Women, all that shit. But man, this was an album, and so I pulled it out the other day. This is during that time. This is a Jim Morrison poetry album with music by the Doors, An American Prayer. I used to recite a lot of this. I remember there was this girl I used to go to, this coffee house, and I remember she was really in the Doors. I was really in the Doors, Morrison, and I used to sit there and recite, the Ghost song, and just different poetry off this album and stuff. It was fun. 1978. This was released, years after Morrison had passed away, but I really dig it, man. I really dig the concept of it, and just the feeling, the sound. There's a lot of rawness to it, and a lot of poetry. I remember I had a neighbor during this time. She asked me, "Do you really think Jim Morrison's a poet?" I said, "Yes, I do. I do." And a very, very big inspiration to my music as well. I pulled out this album, man. What a beautiful album. Can't remember what year this came out. Mid-70s, maybe. Early 70s. Future Games by Fleetwood Mac. This was Bob Welch, Christine McVie, John McVie, Mick Fleetwood, of course. and Danny Kerwin from the last end of the Peter Green years. Not a blues album, just a really mellow, beautiful album, man. Future Games. I wanted to pull this out today. I was just going through my stuff, and I was like, man, I came across this again, and it's been years since I've listened to it, and I said, man, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna get back into this mid Fleetwood Mac and listen to it, feel it. Anyways, beautiful album. I pulled this out the other day. Crazy Horse. This is Crazy Horse, self-titled first album, 1971. It's got Ralph Molina, Billy Talbot, Jack Nietzsche, Danny Whitten, and Nils Lofgren on this. Also features Ry Cooder on this as well. And man, tell you what, man, great album. Great album. I don't know what else to say. I really love the feeling of this album. You know, you hear the inspiration of Neil Young, you know, in through here, especially, you know, the songs Dance, Dance, Dance. I think it was I Don't Want to Talk About It was, you know, going on to, I think Neil did a song, maybe For the Tiles, I'm not sure. I can't remember off the top of my head. But another album produced that featured Jack Nietzsche and Bruce Botnick again, you know, at the Doors. But yeah, another album. I got tickets in May for Neil Young and Crazy Horse. First time I'll ever see Crazy Horse play with Neil Young. Every time I see Neil, he's always been solo. And so the remaining members, the original that are on this album, they're all getting older, man, and now's the time. So I pulled this out the other day and just sat back and was like, wow, man. Another early favorite, one of my first albums I ever bought. I was probably in middle school, I guess, when I got this. Deep Purple, Machine Head. And this is my copy that I got. I've carried since 1990, 1989. Even then, I took care of my records, man. They meant something to me. And I remember going to a record store. They were going out of sale. It was just a little hole in the wall that my dad, he worked in this area, so we drove for a while. And there's records everywhere. And, you know, I go in there at the beginning looking for, you know, the staples that you need in your collection, Beatles, Led Zeppelin. And this one, man, I was like, I know that song, Smoke on the Water. But pretty soon, man, Highway Star, Lazy, Space Truckin', they became my favorites. But I remember that night, I bought 3 albums. I bought this one, Crosby, Stills and Nash & Young, So Far, Can Heat, Collage, and this one. And I remember my dad, he bought some Chicago albums, and I think it was Houses of the Holy, but it had Led Zeppelin 3 when he got home. He didn't look at it. And so I remember he was like, wow, man. And we couldn't return them because they're going out of business, so he ate it. But this is 1972, and, you know, staple and a lot of collections. And sometimes I just want to pull out these kind of albums and listen to them, just like what I did with this one. It's been a while since I listened to Who's Next, 1971 album as well, produced by Glenn Johns. But man, what a perfect fucking album, man. I gotta say it. I listened to this a lot in high school. I would take long drives and listen to Who's Next. That was one of the albums I remember, along with Electric Ladyland, a Plastic Ono Band, and, you know, of course, at that time, Soundgarden and Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins. But man, I think I love every song on this album. It's just a feeling. It's just a great feeling. And like I said, man, I pulled it out the other day. One I didn't listen to for a long time. I remember I bought this in the early days. I found this copy early days of the vinyl community. I was kind of staying on this path of dates for some reason. It was weird because I was pulling stuff out. Oh, it just happened to be the same date as the last album. And this is Atomic Rooster, Death Walks Behind You, 1971, another 1971 album. But what can I say? A heavy, man. It's just a killer album. One that I really enjoy, and I need to listen to it more, but I've got so much that I want to give my my focus to all the time, but I come back to that one often. This one I pulled out. What year did this come out? What's that? Great album, though. Great album. I won't look at it. Blue Oyster Cult. I think it's their first album. Just another great feeling, different kind of feeling to how the band progressed. But man, I dig this album a lot, man. Screams. I love that song. But yeah, I was really enjoying this one the other night. And of course, I had to pull out, Future Days by Can. Another wonderful album that I sat in meditation, thinking, listening, jamming out. But I had to pull this out. It was looking at me. I had the can. It was kind of open for my space for Tago, and then I saw it, man. I was like, all right, let me pull you out too. So anyways, another one I recommend. If you don't know the band, check it out. And all these albums I know I've talked about over the years because I've showed them. There's another one I was watching. Let me start with this one. I was watching a homemade documentary on YouTube about this album, and this is one of my absolute favorite albums of this band. I remember in high school, this is another Late Night Drive album. I don't know how far I live from the city, but I would drive downtown Dallas in my car. And I remember one night I drove out there, and I had a girlfriend, and one of my friends in the back, and I just played this the whole time we drove. And I remember my girlfriend, her falling in love with this album, man, and that was one of the coolest memories with her. I just remember like the feeling we all felt this album, and I had been listening to this all through high school. Just I would listen to it, during school or after school, nighttime drives. But I was watching this little documentary this guy put together on Santana's Caravan S, and it was very interesting to me. And just because you don't ever hear about this album and much of the history or the recording. They always talk about their first 3 albums or their later albums, but this right here, man, this is what started the spiritual quest. Further, opening doors into that realm of spiritualness, and I don't know, the quietness. There's quietness, and there's just this rage of emotions that is just through the music that I absolutely just love, and I feel so at peace with this album, and I just love it. I just think it's one of the most underrated, overlooked albums. And I used to see this in dollar bins and shit. I'm like, what the? I mean, people just want to go for the hits and like feel good with Santana music. But I was raised, Santana was, the early Santana, those first 4 albums to me, and Lotus and further on, they were like, what's the word? A spiritual, sacred, there was a sacredness to these albums. And I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it was like something with my father and his brothers and my family that there was an unspoken mind about the respect of Carlos Santana and the band, Greg and David and Chepito and Michael and Neil and everybody else, Armando and Michael, you know, and then going into all the different, you know, some were commercial, some weren't, but I still have deep love for Santana, Carlos Santana's music. And he always stayed true to that in the early days, and he still does. I mean, I'm not gonna fault him for his successes and, you know, what people think, but I don't know. I got inspired by that. Like I said, I was watching that a good Sunday morning album, late night adventure. So I pulled that out. When I was watching that, I was inspired by, because they were talking about inspirations and what. You know, Carlos Santana was being inspired by, and what, you know, Chepito had brought some inspirations with the jazz, Michael Shreve with the jazz, with Miles Davis, John Coltrane. And then, you know, I've listened to this album so much, but it kind of slipped my mind, you know, as I was watching that I forgot that Jose Chepito Herrera was on this. He plays congas and timbales on here, and you know, this is Herby Hancock's Manwandishi, or Wandishi. I can't speak. But anyways, you know, it kind of brought that feeling, you know, leading into this album, with albums like this. What a beautiful, just a great grooving album, man. It opened a lot of doors and brought different musicians together and inspirations, and helped, you know, that band Santana go into different avenues and paths and places. And you know, it's just a great album, man. This is an album I highly recommend as well. It's one of my favorite Herby Hancock albums. And this is a 1971 as well. It's all connected to it. And I know this isn't a 71, but I pulled this out just because I love it. And I pull it out ever so often because it centers me to a different spot. And sometimes you just need that in your records and your music. Surrealistic Pillow. 1967 Jefferson Airplane. It's hard for me to pick my favorite, you know, because it had two major big hits on here, Somebody to Love and White Rabbit. But, you know, when I first discovered this, I was probably in middle school, maybe a little earlier. I had a compilation of Jefferson Airplane. And, you know, of course, you know, the two hits, but what spoke to me, man, was Today and Coming Back to Me. Those Marty Balin ballads, man. Very ethereal, Coming Back to Me, and just the feeling that you get between both of those songs that finishes side A. A sensualness, a romantic love letter, just a longing. And those two songs, man, they take me to a different, like a past life. Like I feel it, man, and it really speaks to my soul a lot. But another album that I've got early on in my soundtrack life, my life soundtrack. You know, of course, Jerry Garcia being the musical and spiritual advisor. I mean, that's far out, man. I remember talking about this in a video series of psychedelic albums I did a long time ago, and I don't know. My feelings haven't changed about it. It was just a beautiful time in music. Still inspires me when I hear these old albums. Another one I've been wanting to pull out. I wanted to pull out some Quicksilver Messenger, man. I always get this feeling with Quicksilver, you know, from their first album to What About Me. I mean, I've got a lot of like live bootlegs and a lot of unofficial albums just of their sets in my collection here. And that's one band, when I see them, I pick them up, no matter what, you know, lineup or just era of that band. I don't know, Jefferson Airplane, you know, they just really made an impression on my mind and really fed my mind, you know. And so, anyways, I just wanted to share what I've been playing and check in. It's been a while. It's late night, midnight confessions here. I'm doing okay. Got these incense burning. Always burning in my place, dude. But